I will inherit my husband's $800,000 inheritance and this house. Since we have no children, everything belongs to me.
As my sister-in-law spoke with a triumphant air. My name is Amelia, a 45-year-old part-time worker. I have 2 sons with my husband, in 10th and 12th grade. This year, my eldest son is preparing for university entrance exams, dreaming of becoming a lawyer. It seems he has always admired lawyers since he was little, perhaps influenced by my brother, Harrison. Harrison is a lawyer who, a few years ago, established his own law firm and now oversees several attorneys. Growing up, my eldest son observed Harrison closely. Even in elementary school, he loved studying and consistently achieved good grades. Whenever Harrison heard that my son aspired to be a lawyer, he enthusiastically supported him. My son would say to Harrison whenever they met,
"I want to become a lawyer like you, Harrison."
Harrison respond with a smile.
"Become a lawyer soon and follow in my footsteps."
Although Harrison was married, he and his wife didn't have any children. When he visited our home, he played with my sons, and they grew fond of him. Harrison's wife, 10 years younger than him, was a bit eccentric and difficult to get along with. We rarely had the chance to converse with her. Both Harrison and I lost our parents early in life. When I got married, Harrison stepped in as a parental figure for me. After my marriage, Harrison also tied the knot. When we learned that Harrison was marrying a younger woman, my husband and I teased him. However, meeting Harrison's fiancée in person left us surprised by her perpetually unhappy expression. Considering she was about to marry Harrison, we expected her to be cheerful, but instead, she glared at us with a stern face. In front of them, we would say things like, "You two make a lovely couple." But when we were alone with my husband, our true feelings surfaced. Why is she so grumpy when the marriage is already decided? My husband agreed, looking concerned.
Not the most pleasant bride to be, huh?
Despite our worries, Harrison married his 10 years younger fiancée. Just before the wedding, Harrison purchased a single-family home, and we celebrated together with our still young children. Certainly, Harrison, who manages a law firm, lives in an impressive house. However, we couldn't see my newlywed sister-in-law anywhere. My husband playfully teased Harrison.
Harrison, has your wife already run away?
Of course, my husband meant it as a joke, but when we saw Harrison's stern expression, both my husband and I felt uneasy. According to Harrison, my sister-in-law tends to return to her parents' home whenever something happens. On that day, she was staying overnight to celebrate her mother's birthday. Feeling regret for our ill-timed comment, my husband hung his head. But then, Harrison addressed us with a serious expression.
"If I can't have children, would you consider adopting one of your 2 kids?"
Given that Harrison had just gotten married, we assumed he was joking. However, he looked dead serious. Caught off guard, I couldn't respond, but my husband replied with a smile.
We don't know what the future holds. Let's discuss it if the situation arises. If it's okay with our kids, feel free to choose whichever one you'd like to adopt.
My husband didn't seem to take it too seriously, but I couldn't help but worry, not just about the adoption, but also about how well things were going between Harrison and his wife. Although it wasn't my place to interfere in Harrison's marital issues, I felt a vague sense of concern. After that incident, our family continued to visit Harrison's home, and he occasionally visited ours. However, my sister-in-law was always absent, and Harrison never mentioned her. I refrained from asking about her. Over a decade had passed since Harrison's marriage, and we had almost forgotten about my sister-in-law's existence. This year, my eldest son achieved his dream of being accepted into the university's law school. When Harrison came over to celebrate, he brought up the topic of adoption again.
I've mentioned this before, but could you consider adopting one of your kids?
Since Harrison and his wife still hadn't had children, he expressed a renewed interest in adopting one of ours. Unlike the last time, when they had just married, this time Harrison seemed genuinely serious. Even so, my husband responded nonchalantly.
Wouldn't it be better to choose our eldest son, who dreams of becoming a lawyer?
My husband's words were casual, but considering the significant impact on our sons' lives, I pondered carefully. Although it would be going to their Uncle Harrison's home, I wondered if my sister-in-law might be uneasy about it. I asked Harrison directly because I was worried that my sister-in-law might treat my sons, who aren't her biological children, indifferently. I gathered my courage and inquired, "Is my sister-in-law also in favor of adopting a child?" Harrison responded with a wry smile.
Honestly, you don't need to worry about her. We've already discussed it.
Hearing that the matter had been settled, I felt relieved. However, we couldn't make an immediate decision, so we decided to consult with our two sons. Since they were already high school students, we wanted them to have a say in their own lives. We didn't delve further into the topic that day, but a few days later, we received a call from Harrison's law firm saying that he had collapsed. Rushing to the hospital where Harrison had been taken, we found the law firm staff waiting anxiously. Harrison had suffered a stroke while working and was unconscious. Although the law firm staff left once I arrived, they informed us that they couldn't reach Harrison's wife. We tried contacting her at home, but she didn't answer, and we didn't even have her mobile phone number. Later, my husband and sons also arrived at the hospital, but we still couldn't get in touch with Harrison's wife. Eventually, our younger son managed to find Harrison's smartphone among his belongings. After unlocking it, he somehow retrieved his wife's mobile phone number. When I called Harrison's wife from his smartphone, she answered with an angry voice.
Didn't I tell you not to call me anymore? I'll sue you.
Despite her fierce tone, I hesitantly introduced myself.
This is Amelia, Harrison's sister. Are you my sister-in-law? Harrison has collapsed and has been taken to the hospital.
Once she realized it was me on the phone, her demeanor softened.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Harrison. But more importantly, Harrison collapsed?
I explained Harrison's condition and which hospital he was in. She seemed oddly pleased.
I have something important to attend to right now, so I can't go to the hospital. But if anything happens, please let me know.
With that, she hung up. Even though her husband was in critical condition, I wondered what could be more important. Realizing that Harrison's wife wasn't reliable, we decided as a family to take care of Harrison. Since my eldest son had finished his university entrance exams and was relaxing at home, he accompanied Harrison almost every day. Yet, Harrison remained unconscious, and his wife never visited the hospital or called. Around a week after Harrison was hospitalized, I called my sister-in-law's mobile phone again. She answered promptly and exclaimed with delight.
What's wrong? Has he passed away?
Her insensitive choice of words made me want to shout back in anger, but I restrained myself and replied,
Harrison is still alive. Why aren't you coming to the hospital?
In response, my sister-in-law retorted, further fueling my anger.
Because there's nothing I can do. I'm not a doctor, and I can't make him recover.
Her flippant tone infuriated me even more, and I ended the call right there. I began to wonder if Harrison's desire to adopt one of our sons was due to his troubled relationship with his wife, as they couldn't have children. When Harrison's marriage was arranged, I asked where he had met his wife. He mentioned that they were introduced through a marriage agency. Perhaps his wife had married him with the intention of securing a comfortable life, knowing he was a lawyer. This thought fueled my anger further. When I discussed it with my husband, he revealed something even more unsettling.
If Harrison passes away, all of his assets, given that he has no children, will go to that wife of his?
Recently, during the celebration of our eldest son's acceptance into university, Harrison had earnestly discussed adoption. It seemed he was considering inheritance matters. At that time, I regretted not finalizing the adoption decision. Now, it was too late. After Harrison left, I subtly broached the topic of adoption with our two sons. Surprisingly, our younger son expressed enthusiasm about being adopted. Unlike our eldest son, who had clear goals, our younger son seemed to believe that being Harrison's adoptive child would lead to an easier life. Although I thought our eldest son, who admired Harrison, would also want to be adopted, his response caught me off guard.
As the eldest son, I'll take care of mom and dad, so I don't want to be adopted.
While I was pleased with his answer, I still felt strongly that our eldest son, who aspired to become a lawyer, was the most suitable candidate for Harrison's adoption. It frustrated me that I couldn't proceed with the adoption process while Harrison remained unconscious. Although I didn't desire Harrison's inheritance, I had no intention of handing over a single cent of his assets to his wife, who seemed to be waiting for his demise. All we could do now was pray for Harrison's recovery, but unfortunately, his condition did not improve. A few days later, Harrison passed away. Reluctantly, we decided to inform his wife. Harrison has passed away. Can we hold the funeral ourselves? When my sister-in-law, who had been waiting for news of Harrison's passing, responded cheerfully, she said,
I leave it all to you. Don't make me the chief mourner. I don't want to deal with the hassle of greetings.
As I was about to lose my temper, my sister-in-law promptly hung up the phone. In the end, my husband and I took care of the funeral arrangements. The lawyers at the firm also helped us. My husband was worried about the future of the law firm, but Harrison had already made solid plans. Although he was the lead attorney, he entrusted the management of the firm to someone trustworthy, ensuring its smooth continuation as a corporate entity. Many people attended Harrison's funeral, and we truly understood his greatness. Our sons also helped during the funeral, but when they saw prominent figures like CEOs and politicians arriving, our second son felt genuinely frustrated.
I should have become Harrison's adopted son. I never realized he was such an extraordinary person.
While our eldest son rolled his eyes at his brother's words, my husband and I empathize with our second son's feelings. As the chief mourner, I officiated the funeral, and surprisingly, no one questioned my sister-in-law's absence. Perhaps not many people knew that Harrison was married. It seemed like only our family was aware. Harrison and his wife had skipped a wedding ceremony and opted for a honeymoon instead, so even relatives might not have noticed. Sometimes, I regret getting married in situations like this. Despite Harrison's passing, his absent wife wasn't necessary at the funeral. Instead, I couldn't help but regret not adopting our second son sooner, especially considering that she would likely take all of Harrison's assets. Thanks to the assistance from the law firm, Harrison's funeral concluded successfully, and we invited everyone to Harrison's home for a meal. Thanks to all of you, I believe Harrison can rest in peace. As my family and the lawyers sat solemnly, my flamboyant sister-in-law arrived, seemingly timed to coincide with the end of the funeral. I approached her.
What are you doing here now? Do you need something from us?
With a beaming smile, my sister-in-law loudly declared,
I'll inherit my husband's $800,000 estate and this house. Since we have no children, everything belongs to me.
As she spoke triumphantly, all of Harrison's subordinates from the law firm burst into laughter. Our family looked puzzled, wondering why the lawyers found it so amusing. Undeterred, my sister-in-law glared at them and snapped,
What's so funny? Rude people.
One of the lawyers, grinning, replied to her question. The lawyer said,
But you're no longer the representative's wife, are you? We know that the divorce was officially finalized through mediation on the day before the representative collapsed.
Upon hearing this fact for the first time, I exclaimed,
What? You were divorced?
I looked at my sister-in-law in a panic, and she glared at the lawyer who had just revealed the truth with an even more frightening expression. Another lawyer chimed in. The lawyer said,
We've also heard that you were claimed for emotional damages along with the divorce. Considering that your infidelity was the reason for the divorce, it's understandable.
My sister-in-law shouted back, seemingly mocking the lawyer,
I don't have to pay emotional damages. The person I was supposed to pay doesn't exist anymore.
However, her attempt to belittle the situation was swiftly countered by the legal expert.
Since the right to claim emotional damages is also inherited, you'll have to pay it to the representative's sister.
At that moment, I realized that I was Harrison's sole heir. If the divorce was valid, then with no parents in the picture, I was the only one left. My sister-in-law seemed to realize this too, and she stared at me with a terrifying expression. I instinctively stepped back. Frustrated and unwilling to accept this, she shouted at the lawyers once again.
Since the divorce is final, can't I get half of the property through asset division?
The exasperated lawyer informed her.
When the divorce was finalized, didn't you receive money from the representative? We have proof of the transaction. Besides, this house was purchased by the representative before the marriage, so it's not subject to asset division.
Watching my sister-in-law being outmatched by the lawyers was quite entertaining. She seemed to recall something and, with a hint of laughter, blurted out,
But there's still life insurance. I should still be the beneficiary.
Amidst this tense atmosphere, my sister-in-law's calm demeanor impressed me. She had confidently claimed to be the beneficiary when she changed the life insurance recipient upon marriage. However, the lawyers promptly refuted her claim.
Given the representative's responsible nature, we believe he changed the beneficiary when the divorce was finalized.
As instructed, I searched through Harrison's valuables and found the life insurance certificate. My sister-in-law tried to snatch it from me, frantically checking the recipient. But her shoulders slumped when she realized it was still me. With nothing left to gain, she couldn't help but voice her true feelings.
Being married to a lawyer, I thought I'd get a fortune, but I ended up with so little. And now, I have to pay emotional damages too. What a colossal failure.
The stern-faced lawyer had a retort ready for her.
The representative said the same thing. He regretted relying on a marriage agency. He said it was a big mistake.
Harrison never told me anything like that, but he was honest with his colleagues and subordinates. The sister-in-law had nothing to say and left Harrison's house with her back bent. After that, the sister-in-law seemed to have agreed to pay the alimony in installments, but she had no job and had to look for one urgently. But she didn't seem to have worked seriously before, and she quit soon. She registered with a marriage agency again to find a rich man and get money easily. She tricked a man into giving her money by saying she needed it for the wedding, but he soon realized and reported her to the police. Harrison's subordinate lawyer told me that the sister-in-law was arrested for marriage fraud. To be honest, I didn't receive any alimony from her. When I went to check with the lawyer about it, that's when the story came up. The lawyer told me with a disgusted face.
She's been arrested, so I don't think you'll get any alimony for a while.
I didn't care about the alimony. I felt better knowing that the sister-in-law got what she deserved. I think Harrison would have wanted that too. I wanted the police to thoroughly investigate her other crimes and give her a heavy sentence in court. Unexpectedly, I inherited Harrison's property. My whole family moved to the house that Harrison left behind. We used to live in a rented apartment, so we were all very happy to live in a house. We all followed in Harrison's footsteps, but my eldest son studied harder than ever and worked hard to become a lawyer. He admired the lawyers who defeated the sister-in-law even more. He couldn't become an adopted child, but I hope he inherits Harrison's will and becomes a great lawyer like him. Only my second son was angry that I inherited all of Harrison's property and regretted it.
I should have been Harrison's adopted child. Then I could have inherited everything.
I smiled at my second son, who was joking half-heartedly.
How did you like this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.